What do the Florida Gators need in the transfer portal? It's that time of year again, portal season, turning up the heat, where you can essentially go to the portal and treat it like Publix. You just go down the aisle, say, yeah, I'll take one quarterback, one D lineman, one this, that, the other. That's kind of the world we're living in right now in college football. So at the end of this video, going to give you the pitch that Florida is able to make to potential transfers into their program. But let's just start with, what do they need? I got a couple position needs for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. The defensive line. And I want to be very clear how I say this. I don't think that Florida has bad personnel on the defensive line by any stretch of the imagination. Got a lot of dogs. Now, with that being said, in the SEC especially, what is the most important thing in the trenches? Guys, yes. Personnel, yes. But even more so, I think it's depth. And Nick De La Torre from Gators Online, our Florida On 3 site, words this beautifully. Dan Mullen, as a recruiter, didn't leave the cupboard bare. There is still some really good pieces. However, there's just not enough stocked in there to have a full-on dinner party. And in the SEC, over the length of the season, you know it and I know it, it's physical, it's brutal, it's tough, it's back and forth, and it wears on everybody on your roster. Okay? So, with that being said, it might be time to go out and get some other big bodies, because look at over the year, Florida as a defense against the run was not great. Allowed 5 yards a carry, 183 yards a game. It's not going to win you many games. It's not going to get you to where you expect to be. What's the standard in Gainesville? So the defensive line, I believe, could benefit from a little bit of a retooling. Now, I want to make this clear. This is also not Billy Napier's fault. As I had already alluded to, you're kind of inheriting some problems that Dan Mullen left you from what he didn't do on the recruiting trail. So the beautiful thing, the transfer portal exists. Go out, get you some ball players, and retool some depth into that defensive line to go the length of this season. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, we would love to have you at the party. We do content every single day. It's portal season. You're going to want to make sure you're locked in with us, because we have you covered for every single thing that you know that you love about college football and also pertaining to the transfer portal. Also, follow me on the socials at JD Piquel on Twitter and on Instagram. A lot of interaction over there, a lot of stuff that we do on those channels that we incorporate onto the YouTube program. Roll party roll. Next thing I think Florida should go and do in the transfer portal, go get you some receivers. Get you a big play kind of receiver. Justin Shorter was kind of your big play guy a season ago. The expectation is he's going to go to the draft. Now, Ricky Pearsall is draft eligible. I personally feel like he would benefit from coming back and putting more on tape. Just my feel. But regardless, you're going to need some guys that can pop the top on the defense, because they have some really awesome running backs. I mean, Trevor Etienne, Montrell Johnson are two of the best backs in the country. Barring something unforeseen, they're coming back to your program. So you're going to be able to run the football more than likely. Now, why is it important to have receivers? Then if you're going to run the football, well, guess what? When you run the football effectively, teams start to account for that. And whenever you can't run the football and everyone just sells out to stop the run, you got to have a counterpunch. We say it a lot on this program. Got to have a curveball to go with your fastball. And if safeties can just creep up with no concern for what's going to happen behind them, well, then you have issues, right? So getting a speedy kind of wide receiver, a big play threat in the portal, I think would really benefit Florida's offense in the long run. They've got guys on the roster, but to have kind of an alpha dog on the outside to go with Pearsall, I would love to see for that program. So we want to see the receivers be a place of emphasis for them this coming portal cycle. Now, the linebacking core, also not completely bare. They're just a little bit more inexperienced. They lose Ventrell Miller. Brenton Cox was dismissed from the team. Amari Burney will finish out his career at Florida. They need to be able to apply pressure off the edge. Like we said with the defensive line, the SEC is very much a trenches league. And so to have a linebacking core that can play the pass, yes, but even more so, dial it up in terms of pass rush, I think that's going to be what allows Florida to get back to where they want to be. So being able to stop the run, being able to play in the trenches with them and have just some sort of experience there, because they have a lot of youth, but have someone who's played some football in the past, who has a lot of games under their belt, who won't be any kind of deer in the headlights sort of fashion for you. That's what I would love to see get infused into this young linebacking core at Florida to go along with the young talent that's still sort of developing in-house. Now, lastly, this is a very interesting one. Anthony Richardson, at the time of this taping, has not made any decision about going to the NFL or coming back to Gainesville. So with that being said, let's just play the scenario out. If Anthony Richardson does leave, he would likely have a lot of attention from the NFL with him being about 6'4", 6'5", 240 and running like a deer. There's some NFL teams that would want him on their roster. So if he does go to the NFL, here's my question for you. Do you feel like Jack Miller or Jaden Rashada is the guy to get you to where you ultimately believe you should be in year 2 under Billy Napier? My assumption would be that somewhere in the range of 9-10 games would be the expectation or the hope at Florida. I personally don't feel that way. I feel like neither of those guys is the player that will get you to that spot. Jaden Rashada could be in the future, but he's going to be a true freshman. So let's, temper expectations a little bit with him. And the ROI on Jack Miller so far, I believe it was supposed to be a little bit of a quarterback battle early when he came in. Ended up not being the case. Feel like I have a good gauge on what he brings to the table. So all that's to be said, what do you have to lose from bringing in a transfer quarterback? At the very least, he ups the level of competition in the room, pushes Miller, pushes Rashada. At the very best, you get a starting quarterback with some experience and a guy who would, in theory then, be more prepared to help your team than a Jack Miller or a Jaden Rashada if he does win the job out of camp. So I'm just saying, if it's not AR, I don't think you have your answer in-house. And that's not to say I don't think Jack Miller and Jaden Rashada are both good quarterbacks. I just mean for 2023 and what the good people in Gainesville will expect from Billy Napier, there needs to be some sort of, I think, revamping or at least more competition in that quarterback room to push the envelope. So those are all the things I think you need. Defensive line, wide receivers, linebacker, and potentially quarterback, depending on what AR does. So you're saying, okay, that's great. That's what we need. How do we get them there? Like, what's the pitch if you're Billy Napier and the staff and saying, come to Gainesville? Couple of things. The first is the NIL package more than likely will be attractive. Because in today's age of NIL, you know what it comes down to? You have a school and you have people that care about their football program. The schools and people that care about their program will have NIL be attractive. And the good news for the people at Florida is they care about their programs. They're going to be able to be competitive in that space. And let's just call a spade, be able to hit the right price point to attract the right kind of guys. All right. The second thing, the SEC exposure is a very real thing. Because if you want to play at the next level, which a lot of the guys that jump in the portal do, playing in the SEC checks a lot of boxes for an NFL scout. Like if I'm an NFL scout, I don't have any questions about your resume if you did it in the SEC. If you balled out in the SEC, I feel pretty good about your translation to the NFL. And that's not to knock any other conferences, but there's just one SEC. And it's a lot like the NFL in terms of, caliber of talent that will eventually be developed to play in the SEC. Just kind of the fact of the matter. Lastly, if you're Billy Napier, I think you can pitch the idea that you see that we're close. Like they had 3 games they lost by 1 score. It's a very big difference going from 6-6 to 9-3. That means you're this close. This close can likely just be a couple of players, a little bit more talent, a little bit more experience infused into your program. So if I'm Billy Napier, I'm saying we're close and we need you to get us over the hump. And you can play a crucial role in that. Come be a part of something, getting Florida back to being the top tier in college football, the upper tier in college football. I think that's attractive for a lot of guys that want to make a case for themselves on a national level. So for Florida, portal season's here. It's time to go shopping. Get yourself some missing pieces for Billy Napier in year 2 to make a big jump from bowl eligibility to being in the upper tier of the college football landscape. This has been The Hard Count. I'm JD Piquel. We appreciate you tuning in with us. Jack Terry doing the heavy lifting, but this is your show, your operation. We got content coming for you every single day. The portal's here. We don't want you to be out of the loop. Lock in with us, subscribe. We'll have a good time. We're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.